This should be played at high volume.
Welcome to Outta Pocket. Here's your host, Michael Davis.
It's time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. It's not clobbering time. It's out of pocket time. Shout out to Mike Mele, the host of the Mouth Off with Mike Wrestling podcast. He was on the show Tuesday talking some wrestling, and now we get to talk some football, joined by Aaron Schneider, who has done his homework. He has been looking at this draft very intensively, and he's super busy right now with this time of year, so happy that he can join us. And of course, producer Desmond Johnson, who's wrapping up the baseball regular season finale. He's got East Forsyth, West Forsyth tonight for some baseball action, but we got the NFL draft tonight as well, and it's such a great time. It's so exciting, but not only do we have to focus on the college players coming out in the draft, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but we also have to worry about some of the stars already established on NFL teams could get traded either tonight or this weekend. Some names being floating around is T. Higgins requesting a trade. He was franchise tagged earlier this offseason. Miles Sanders, Ryan Frick brought up Miles Sanders yesterday on the Cat Cave that you guys can listen to on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube feed and Fans First Sports Network for their audio feed. There's some guys floating around, and I wanted to I'll pose to Aaron first. Could you see any of these big NFL stars getting traded this weekend?
100%. You know, T. Higgins getting moved makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe since Cincinnati moves up a little bit and gets one of the top 3-5 receivers on a rookie deal, because I don't know if they're gonna prioritize, paying Chase big money and Higgins big money that he's inevitably gonna want. So the smart move would be move from Higgins, hopefully move up a bit, this is an insane wide receiver class. The depth is just ridiculous. Even if they stayed put, they could get like a legit wide receiver too. But smart money would be trade Higgins, get a rookie for 4 years, and maybe re-sign him if he's good.
Yeah, and you guys have the ability to interact with us on our YouTube channel. If you leave a comment, just like Booking Like a Mark did, he said, today is the day. Jerry Jones has left us waiting for some big moves in Dallas. He has high hopes for the draft. I have high hopes as well for the Cowboys. I might tell you guys later on in the show what I think Dallas does tonight in the NFL draft. And Aaron mentioned, do the Bengals wrap up all that money in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Mike Mele's team, the Philadelphia Eagles, just did that with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. Mike, could we see T. Higgins or maybe even like a Brandon Ayuk move this week?
When Aaron said it, I want to kind of piggyback off that thought. Yeah, I think T. Higgins is a guy you got to keep an eye on. I also think Brandon Ayuk is a guy you got to keep an eye on. Former Arizona State legend himself, kind of aired his displeasure with San Francisco. There were some social media tweets a few weeks ago. So you could see maybe Brandon Ayuk on the move in this draft as well. But I think T. Higgins reasonably is probably the big name on that board that could get traded in the draft. Could he get traded to a team that needs a wide receiver? And do the Bengals really trade up that far? I'm looking at the Chargers pick at number 5. Could the Chargers trade down to 18 with the Bengals, pick up T. Higgins, Bengals slide in that 5 spot, pick up one of those top 5 wide receivers on the board, maybe a Malik Neighbors, maybe an Xavier Worthy? It's tough. Like Aaron said, that wide receiver class is insane.
Yeah, we're going to be looking back on this class in about 5 years being like, wow. We might even touch on who is the best receiver in this class a little later on the show. Des, when Ryan mentioned yesterday on the Cat Cave about the Panthers potentially trading Miles Sanders, I wanted to run that by you because you do believe in Panthers with Jonathan Stewart and Skylar Callahan. Would you see the possibility of Sanders getting traded this weekend?
Potentially. The problem here is that we don't know what Miles Sanders looks like in Dave Canales' offense. I've kind of pulled back from critiquing Miles and Bryce and others from last year. Once you kind of peel the onion and realize that they didn't really have a proper coaching staff telling them where to go. It's kind of hard to hit a hole when you don't know where the hole's going to be. So it's like, kind of got to figure out what you got with Miles, because I want a guy out of the backfield for Carolina that can be an extension for Bryce, that he can throw it to, that he can get it out quick, because that's going to be what they're going to be doing. They're going to be bootlegging, getting the ball out of Bryce's hands quick, getting guys in open space. That's what sold them on Miles Sanders last year. That's his whole thing. He was supposed to be great in space and be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Granted, that was behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, so that's a little bit of a difference than any other line in the league. So if we could get something, if we can get like a third or a fourth for him, I'm more than willing to do so, because I literally just posted an article on sportscarolinamonthly.com this morning. I've been running a series on who should the Panthers take at number 33, and we've already done wide receiver, we've already done inside linebacker, and today was running back. And there are a couple of running backs I'd rather have over Miles Sanders, just because they'd be less expensive, and I feel like they'd be a little bit better suited to pair with Chuba Hubbard. From my gathering, it sounds like there's not going to be a running back selected in the first two rounds. So you're going to have your pick of guys like Jonathan Brooks from Texas, Blake Corum from Michigan, Trey Benson from Florida State, who I like. He's 6'1", 225 pounds, kind of a thumper, can run in between the tackles. Or Bucky Irvin, who I know Jonathan Stewart likes from Oregon, who had 56 receptions out of the backfield. So there's some stuff they can do and get even less expensive in terms of what they're paying out. So if something presents itself and they can package Miles up in something and move him out, I'm all for it. There's going to be some teams wanting to move up probably to the top of the second anyway. If you can put together some kind of package where you get Miles in there too and get more picks, let's do it. You're rebuilding, so let's rebuild.
And it's interesting you bring up, the depth at the running back position. I'm going to release an article for Fans First Sports Network later this afternoon about who could replace Tony Pollard in doubt. Whoa, Derek,
JJ
hold
McCarthy
up. Keep that
to the
Keep that on the
That's
screen.
too.
Wow.
So Derek Hawley is like JJ McCarthy maybe to the Pats.
Well, he's saying he's seeing it. He's saying he's seeing it on Facebook. Not that he's saying it, but I've seen it too. I've seen McCarthy attached there. I've seen what's his face? Drake May at 3. The thing I'm worried about for Carolina is that either Buffalo or Kansas City decides to grow a pair and they trade up and they trade to 3 with New England, so they can go get one of those top tier wide receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, the kid from Oregon. Those seem like the 3. And can you imagine Kansas City moving up from 32 to 3 with the Patriots?
That'd be a lot.
In order to draft that wide receiver, or Buffalo. Buffalo probably needs it more than Kansas City does, but yeah, it'd be a lot to move up. They're probably going up a first next year, and their first this year, probably a second too. But those teams strike me as teams, they don't need a second tier wide receiver. Like, they need a main guy, like both of them do. And if you want like a Marvin Harrison or something, you got to get in front of Arizona, because I think that's where he's going to be at pick 4.
100%.
That leaves the Patriots, and the Patriots don't seem to be enamored with any of these quarterbacks. So I'm just saying something might happen at pick 3 with New England. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade down.
To be honest, I want to piggyback off that thought. I feel like we're missing a big team who has 2 first-round picks here in this draft after the trade here with Houston. Minnesota's a team that scares me in this draft. They're the wild card. They could trade up. They could trade both of those picks to the Patriots, and the Patriots could slot themselves in later in the draft for JJ McCarthy, like Paulie said, or even a Bo Nix. Maybe in that line. That's what scares me, because Minnesota could sneak in there and snag one of those wide receivers. Imagine what Minnesota would look like with Justin Jefferson and Marvin Harrison on the same side of the ball if they are able to sneak in that 3rd spot and beat out Arizona, because I'm an Arizona guy. I live out here. That's what the talk of the town has been. Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals, that's locked in. But I think Minnesota could throw in that, and New England very well could too as well.
Now, that's interesting you bring that up, Mike, because a lot of people forget the Minnesota Vikings also have Jordan Addison, but Justin Jefferson hasn't re-signed yet. So Amon-Ra St. Brown just got his big deal. CD Lamb's waiting on his. But Justin Jefferson's probably waiting for all these deals to happen so he can make the most money, because Justin Jefferson is the number one receiver in the NFL. I don't know many people who would dispute that. So Minnesota either train up for a quarterback or somebody who could potentially replace Jefferson if they can't get a deal done would be absolutely phenomenal. You guys can also, just like Derek Polly did, steer the conversation the way you want to go. That's why we go live. Max saying the quarterback class in 2021. It's like that class in 2021 overrated.
All of them have been traded except for Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, yeah. I mean, let's look at this year's few quarterbacks. Really the top of the list for me, obviously top of the list for everybody: Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, McCarthy, Nix, Penix, and then you kind of get into the conversation with Spencer Rattler, John Rice, Plumlee, Jordan Travis, Michael Pratt. I mean, really, those top 6 that I named, those are your guys that you're looking at. So you really got 6 guys that you could argue could start in the NFL right there, right off the board. And I personally think if with the way the draft looks and the picks, with the teams with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, I think you could say realistically 6 quarterbacks could go within the first 10, and then you got your 4 wide receivers right there.
It's crazy too. The guy that's forgotten in all this is Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis was a Heisman candidate, until he got hurt. And I feel like he's in the exact same situation that Hendon Hooker was in the year before with Tennessee, where he was a Heisman Trophy candidate and the front runner for the most part, all the way to like the last week of the season or whatever, got hurt. And then he ended up falling in the draft, ended up going like, I think 3rd round or something like that. I'm not even sure where he is right now.
Detroit,
Tennessee. Where is he?
He's a backup in Detroit, I believe.
Detroit. So he's behind Jared Goff in Detroit. I could see somebody getting Jordan Travis 3rd round, 4th round, and just tucking him away for a little while. Let him heal from the injury and let him learn, that kind of thing. But somebody's gonna get a steal on Jordan Travis in the mid rounds here. There's a lot of different storylines going on that we haven't even touched that'll be going on in this draft. This isn't even one of the most loaded drafts.
This isn't one of the most loaded drafts.
No. Is there a surefire can't miss prospect in this draft to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I think there's
Marvin Harrison.
Caleb, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. Keep an eye on Xavier Worthy, the fastest 40 time in NFL.
They said the same thing about what was the dude from
John Ross?
John Ross. Yeah, he ran a 4.24. He went top 10. Had like 2 seasons or whatever. Speed is one thing, but I'd rather a quick wide receiver than a straight line fast one. And I did see this stat this morning too on Get Up. Chance of the position getting to their second contract if drafted in the first round or whatnot. Quarterback was like 45%. The position that was the lowest out of all the positions on the field in the first round was wide receiver at 22%. So if you're going to actually pick a wide receiver high, you better make sure that dude's going to pan out, because more often than not, three out of 4 times they don't in the first round. So just a little something to chew on.
That's a good statistic, honestly.
Yeah. I didn't know that either. I was actually surprised when I saw it.
Yeah. When it comes to receiver with this draft, you talk about can't miss prospect. I feel like you can't get any more than Marvin Harrison Jr. He has the lineage. He has the build. He's like 6'3", 210 pounds.
He's jacked.
Yeah. I'll give you him. Yeah, for sure. Harrison. Yeah. I thought the Bears should have stayed at 1 and drafted Harrison 1 and kept Fields, but it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was the direction, because it seemed like the fan base really liked Justin Fields, but I mean, clearly the GM and management do not believe in him, which I can understand, but I think he's a guy that he needed to get out of that system, and I think he's going to excel outside of Chicago. What scares me is Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams is in fact that number 1 pick, and it seems very predictable at this point, that's what scares me here is will Caleb Williams fit into that system? They went out there, they got Keenan Allen, they got himself a veteran wide receiver to throw to and kind of help that transition. I think you got to say Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, the 2 surefire picks in this draft.
Yeah. And I know Aaron's done a lot of research in terms of ranking out the positions. So Aaron, when you look at, Mac's comment with, this quarterback class being overrated, just like 2021 was, do you feel the same way? Do you feel like there are good quarterback prospects, or do you think these guys are going to fizzle out within 3 years?
No, I don't think it's as bad as 2021 was. Trevor with Trey Lance and all them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 21. Yeah.
Yeah, I I like this class a lot more than 21. Like Mike said, the drop off after the top 6 is significant.
Yeah.
And real quick, I just want to say, if someone takes JJ McCarthy top 5, I think that gets somebody fired 100%. That would be mind-boggling if someone took him that high. I'm a Michigan fan, and I have a lot of love for JJ McCarthy, but good Lord, top 5 is insane.
There's always one every year.
I don't
that they
see it
try
for
to
some
shoot
reason.
up. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to take a flyer on him in the top 10.
I don't believe that he could. I think his ceiling, really is a Sam Darnold. And I think his floor is a Zach Wilson at this point. That's a bold take, but I just don't see it in him, man. I don't see it.
I don't see him getting picked tonight, to be honest. I think he'll fall out of the first and he'll be a second round pick.
I don't think
He's never
good,
a first round pick to begin with. I think it's a lot of Jim Harbaugh blowing a lot of smoke and mirrors out there about his former quarterback. And like I said, there's always one. There's always one that the media tries to push upwards. That's not going to. And then they have their story because then he'll fall. And they knew he was going to fall. So watch. JJ McCarthy's the one that's not going to get. I can't think of a team in the top 10 that's going to pick JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, the Giants. The Giants.
The Giants might be dumb enough to pick JJ McCarthy.
The Giants are dumb enough.
Forgot about them.
Let's be real here. They are. They got. There's gonna be guaranteed there'll be at least one top 5 wide receiver on that board. JJ McCarthy. Or even worse, they're gonna go Bo Nix.
Get in here.
And then yeah, exactly.
Man, that would be quite hilarious. And tomorrow I'm gonna have Dez on. I'm gonna have Kevin Avery from the 4-Man Rush. I'm gonna have Cody from the C3 Panthers podcast. We're going to talk about if one of these prospects fall tonight. Could a team trade up with Carolina at that 33 selection and Carolina acquire picks and who that prospect could be? We'll find out more about that tonight. So stay tuned for tomorrow's episode as well. But you guys have mentioned JJ McCarthy. Aaron, is there somebody you think could fall out of the first round?
I don't know about first round. There's a couple players I think that should be taken higher that I think could drop in, the last 10, 12 picks. I do not know how to pronounce his name, but the offensive tackle from Penn State. I think he's really good, but for some reason I've been seeing a lot of people underrate him, in my opinion. I think he's 10, 12 range is a good spot for him. He's a really good football player, but I've seen a lot of 16 to 20. Saints at 14 is the earliest I've seen.
Yeah, Fashanu. Is that how you pronounce it, Mike?
I don't know. I'm taking a shot in the dark here. Some of the names I don't want to butcher, but Olamiyiwa Fashanu from Penn State Jr. Is that the
there was
a question? There was hesitation there. There was a lot.
If you guys remember last year when Victor Wembanyama was coming out, it took me about 2 months to figure out how to pronounce Wembanyama. And the entire time I was thinking back, I'm like, I could have just said Wemby and been fine. But I had to go all out with the full legal government name. Yeah, he could fall. This class in terms of offensive linemen, I think, is really deep too. We could see quite a few offensive linemen go. We could see a lot of wide receivers go tonight. Quarterbacks, Mike. In reality, how many quarterbacks do you think go tonight?
I mean, if I'm a betting man, all right, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this. These picks. You got Chicago in at 1, you got Washington in at 2, Patriots, Cardinals, Chargers, Giants, Titans, Falcons, Bears, Jets in the top 10. Out of those teams, 6 of those teams, I think Bears, Commanders, Patriots, Giants, Titans, Falcons, maybe with the
Yeah, they got Cousins right now, but
the Titans is drafted
Minnesota
here, so
Minnesota, Denver, all of those teams need quarterbacks. If you stretch into the 11, 12, if you take the Bears' second pick out of there, which I would assume they would take a wide receiver there. I truthfully think you could see 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round. As for those 4, I think it's clear and cut. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. And I want to really talk about Michael Penix Jr. I think that's a guy who a lot of people are sleeping on in this draft. We started to see his name creep up on boards now this week with the draft. A lot of news is coming out on him. A lot of positive stuff from what they've been seeing. Give me a Michael Penix in there as that fourth quarterback off the board. I think you could see him maybe go off the board before a JJ McCarthy, before a Bo Nix, potentially even before a Drake May. I know he's a North Carolina guy, so that's close to you guys down there over in Tobacco Road. But I want to see Jaden Daniels off the board at 2. I want to see him gone, and I want to see Penix off the board. So I want to say 4 quarterbacks off the board in the first. And as to kind of piggyback off Aaron with guys sliding, I think Brock Bowers is a guy you got to keep an eye on sliding into the late first, early second round. I think you're just too built-in quarterbacks, wide receivers, and offensive line right now to say, like, I'll take a tight end when I don't think the market says for that right now.
Well, I feel like also with tight ends, unless you're getting a Travis Kelce, then you're not going to take a tight end. Like, it's almost like the running backs where it's almost the position's been devalued in the draft to where you're seeing guys getting taken second and third round, make contributions to teams when they could be first round picks like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That's just the way the game's evolving. And at the end of the day, teams can't win without a security blanket at tight end. Teams can't win without a reliable run game to balance out the passing attack. Des, I saw you counting on your fingers, back to elementary school days, or to me, like adult days, like about 30 minutes ago. How many quarterbacks do you see getting taken tonight? I could see as many as 5 or 6.
In the first round?
Yeah.
Or top 10?
In the first round.
Yeah, I could see. I'll probably stay right around 5. They always go over. They always say way more than we're going to. Again, JJ McCarthy's not going to get drafted in the first round. I don't believe. If he does, it might be at the back end of the first round. You really have 4 locks between Williams, Daniels, May, and who am I missing? Williams, Daniels, May,
Penix.
Penix.
No,
not high up on the Penix stock.
No. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody.
Drake May, Penix, Spencer Rattler.
No, none of those guys are going in the first round. So honestly, it might only
Williams,
be like
Daniels.
3 or 4. Caleb Williams, Jalen Daniels,
Jordan Travis,
Drake
maybe,
May.
but I don't think so.
I don't think he'll go in the first. I think he'll be more Kendon Hooker. He'll go maybe top of the second. Somebody might go up to go get him. That might be something Carolina trades out for somebody coming up to go get Jordan Travis, maybe. But I don't know. 5 might be too many, actually, now I'm sitting there thinking about it. I think there's going to be a run on wide receivers about midway through the first, where people are just going to start grabbing wide receivers. It's going to be interesting, though. It'll be an interesting night. I wasn't even planning on – I never plan on watching the NFL draft in its entirety. And then I'll turn it on. I start doing something else over on the side. And next thing I know, I've been there for 4 hours, and I've watched the entire thing. I didn't leave or nothing. Like, I'm just sitting here, like I get entranced by this kid's story in middle school. He lost a leg or something, and now he's the starting left tackle from Michigan. And then he gets drafted by the Cardinals. And it's like, you're just kind of watching the whole thing and the ticker at the bottom and everything else going on. And you don't realize it's like 10:30. Like, I've been here for 2.5 hours with no commercial. And I'm just like not blinking, like Dan Morgan, just like watching the screen. Like, so I was told people I wasn't going to watch the whole draft. I had a radio hit last night in New Orleans, and I told them, they asked me, it's like, no, the Panthers don't pick till Friday. I probably won't watch the whole thing. The Lakers play at 10 o'clock. And then I hung up with them, and I thought, I'm going to watch the whole thing. I'm going to end up watching the entire round and not even blink about it. So the NFL draft, man, the NFL is just the monster in the room. That to have something like this where they have it now over 4 days, it's a 4-day draft. They're going on TV. It's nuts.
Well, and you think about it, like it's such a great time to like get together. Like, me and my dad will always watch the NFL draft together. The first time I ever followed the NFL draft, I was actually scheduled to have jaw surgery, and they scheduled it on night 1 of the NFL draft on a Thursday. So we drove all the way up to West Virginia, and I had my surgery in the morning, and I had that was the first year I did mock drafts. I'd really got in depth with it. And I woke up 20 minutes before the draft, stayed awake through the entire thing. And my thought at the end of the night was, who's Travis Frederick? Like, what? who was that? Like, I didn't even hear about him, study him, anything. And lo and behold, he was one of the best offensive linemen that the Dallas Cowboys have ever had. His season and his career ended short because of GBS. But I mean, we could see teams take the next, Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, and we could also see teams take a dud. So with that aged well segment to close out today, before you guys enjoy your NFL draft this evening, I want you guys, and I know you have Panthers don't pick tonight. I know the Eagles do, the Cowboys do. I'm going to let you guys pick any team you want, and I want you guys to predict what they do, whether that's trade their pick away, acquire a star that we talked about at the top of the show, pick a certain player or position. I'm going to put that on you and kind of look into your crystal ball and see what's going to happen tonight in the NFL draft. Aaron, who's your team and what's the move?
So this is what I'm not 100% sure on this because I'm going with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is a character. To just summarize him with one word, what I think they should do and what I'm 65-70% sure they will do is stick with the 5th overall pick and go Malik Neighbors because they desperately need to rebuild that wide receiver core. It's abysmal. And if they don't go receiver, I think Herbert's going to be very upset as Justin Herbert can be.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I could definitely see Malik Neighbors because Keenan Allen, I believe, is in Chicago now. They don't have Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston. I mean, you can guess what happened there. But Justin Herbert, he needs weapons. He needs people to throw to. Mike's a little spoiled over there in Philadelphia with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. But Mike, when you look at what a team needs to do, predict in your crystal ball what happens tonight.
Well, I will say for the Eagles, I think we're going cornerback. I think we're going to fortify the position. I don't know what this board's going to look like when we get to our pick here in the 22 spot. Yeah, we're in the 22 spot. So you got a lot of teams up there that need some picks. So I wanted to say Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama with our pick there at 22. If Terry and Arnold or Quinn and Mitchell are not on the board for cornerbacks. As for Paulie, I saw your comment. Any prediction on which school has the most picks this year? I'm going to say Texas this year.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to New England. I'm still stuck on that 3rd pick. It doesn't feel like they're really enamored with any of these quarterbacks. And to be honest, they're not in a position to say they pick a rookie quarterback this year. They're not really in a position to protect him or to give him anything to help him out in terms of handing the ball off or throw. They need to build a whole lot of other stuff before they put in a quarterback at this point to me. So I think they would be best suited to trade down and pick up a bunch of picks to kind of start rebuilding the Patriots. I don't see them going for Drake May when Drake May is starting to sound like Mac Jones a little bit for some reason, in circles in terms of comparison wise, how he would be in New England. Not necessarily that he would be a bad prospect, but there's just not enough around him to see exactly what he's going to be. And I think that was Mac Jones' problem in New England as well, and Cam Newton and everybody else that came in there after Tom Brady left. So I think New England is not married to the 3rd pick, and I think someone's going to jump up to number 3 and get one of those wide receivers. And the Patriots will move down. They'll stay in the 1st. They'll pick up a 1st next year. Lord knows what else they'll pick up in this year's draft, but I think that's going to be the move. I think the Patriots are going to move out of the 3rd slot. That's where everything's going to start going because Washington needs a quarterback, and we already know Chicago's getting Caleb Williams. So whoever Washington doesn't pick, say Washington picks Daniels, which seems like that might be the way it goes. If somebody really wants Drake May or somebody really wants Marvin Harrison Jr., before Arizona gets to him, they got to move up to 3. So watch the 3rd pick with New England. I think that's going to be where the action starts.
Yeah,
that could lead to an exciting event tonight. I'm looking at the YouTube comments. Max saying Dallas praying for Barton, but believes the offensive tackle that we also can't pronounce the name of. He's talking about the
Suamatea?
the guy from BYU.
What
Yeah,
is
you
Dallas
guys
just replacing? Is Dallas just replacing the guys that they're not signing with rookies? Is that the deal?
That sounds like it.
Is that what's happening?
Well,
'Cause-
Well, that's been the recipe for Dallas over the last few years. If there's one thing, like, people can clown the playoff losses, people can clown the free agency. What Dallas does do well is draft.
They do. I will
And
give them that. They have nailed, especially first round. They've nailed their first rounders the past couple of years. So,
I mean, when you look at what
Credit.
Will McClay's done, like, Will McClay overrules Jerry Jones in some instances because they trust Will McClay so much because he drafted Micah Parsons when we're like, oh, we have Leighton Vander Esch, we have Jalen Smith. Now both aren't on the team, and Micah Parsons is the best defensive player on the Cowboys, but I would argue best defensive player in the NFL. I know a couple people disagree, and you guys are allowed to be wrong. But I feel like this draft is really crucial for Dallas, especially seeing got cornerstones like Tyron Smith walk away. You haven't re-signed Stephon Gilmore. Tyler Biadasz is in Washington. Tony Pollard's in Washington. Like, you saw all of these guys leave. And I feel like Graham Barton is the guy. And I'm not saying that just because he's a Duke offensive lineman, but he has the versatility to play outside the tackle position. He has the versatility to play at center. That's what he's listed in most mock drafts, and as well as guard. Now, of course, you have Tyler Smith and Zach Martin, and those are the only two locked positions there. And we could kick out Tyler to left tackle. He could play inside. But having a guy like Graham Barton to have that flexibility, if he's there at 24, I expect Dallas to take him. But I would be incredibly shocked if the Dallas Cowboys do not take offensive linemen tonight in the first round. But we'll see what happens in the first round. We'll be back on Out of Pocket tomorrow, Friday afternoon, with Cody from the C3, with Kevin from the 4-Man Rush. For today, it's been Michael Davis. Huh?
I was saying my guys are gonna be in the house.
Yeah,
Look, as we're signing off, keep an eye on that third pick, like Des said. Keep an eye. Watch out for those Raiders. Watch out for those Vikings.
We might
Watch out
go a
for those
little
teams.
longer than normal tomorrow too, maybe, with it being all Panther centric and everything. Take advantage of having Cody Lashley and Kevin Avery in the house because they are two of the top Panther content creators around. So it should be a loaded show tomorrow. East Forsyth, West Forsyth live. High school baseball is the regular season finale at 7:00 tonight on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You can definitely listen to that. And franchise players should be dropping on this channel on YouTube here shortly. So all kinds of stuff. Go get it.
Should be fantastic. Also dropped an interview with Brad Attitude, AML wrestling champion, yesterday on Tobacco Road Sports Radio through the Drop and Mike podcast. Thank you again, Brad, for tuning in. Mike has his own WWE mock draft for those fans. We got a WWE draft this weekend as well.
There's a lot of drafts this weekend.
A lot of drafts, but this was
drafts,
the final
baby.
cut of Out of Pocket today. I'm your host, Michael Davis, joined by Aaron, Mike Mele from Mouth Off of the Mike Wrestling Podcast, and producer Desmond Johnson. So much content on Tobacco Road you guys can watch, and we will see you tomorrow afternoon, 12:30, to talk some Panthers and the rest of the NFL draft.